Dear Aries, hello. Let's break down one of the most mind-blowing months. Mind-blowing not in the sense of where to run or what to do, but in terms of the intellectual activity you'll show here. Here, your brain is firing on all cylinders at 146%. It feels like there's a huge number of intellectual tasks, and most importantly, you have the tools to quickly sort through them and solve them fast. Here, really, this is where you could actually win an award at a chess tournament, or develop some kind of intellectual or information-based business where you need to organize and bring order to things. It could be anything related to travel, logistics, where you need to manage flows, whether it's the movement of vehicles or information. Huge amounts of data will also come easily to you. This is because Mars, your ruling planet, is currently in the sign of Virgo and has incredible persistence. This is exactly the case that can be described as grinding away at the granite of knowledge, really digging into learning. At the same time, your main ally here is Uranus, which will move into the sign of Gemini literally in the first days of the month, creating the sense that you are entering a new informational era. In fact, this is the very theme of the age of Aquarius that everyone has been talking about for the last 50 or even 100 years, when the telegraph appeared, then the internet, and now artificial intelligence. All of these are transformational informational developments that are changing our reality. And over the next 7 years, thanks to Uranus and Gemini, we will make the most significant leap forward in information technology. And it is precisely here, in July, that this new chapter of life actually begins to open up. And it's one thing for Uranus to be making this transition, but an important part of this process is that your main planet, Mars, is in the most intellectually powerful sign. And this whole process that I just described can literally feel like I'm stepping onto a new path, a new trajectory in my life. Again, considering that the entire year of 2025 is literally filled with planets that are beginning their multi-year cycles and changing their previous patterns. And you have to study, and study, as was once said by. Now I'm not even sure if it's politically correct to say this, but Grandpa Lenin. So there's this idea that life starts to become really dynamic on an informational level. And most importantly, you easily adapt to this new layer of information. And if we look at the picture for the whole of 2025, until April we're kind of stuck in a rut. In May and June we wake up and start new directions. And in July and August we intellectually, with our minds, master these new directions. The fall will be dedicated to emotional and romantic stories. So, in general, you really shouldn't sleep through this period. You just can't. And that's the summer, July and August. Yes, of course, it's summer, so you might want to relax. But it's great if you use this time to develop yourself intellectually in some area as well. Mars in Virgo, which will be present throughout this month, is also excellent for physical activity and working on your body. If you're an athlete, a dancer, or if your specialty involves working with the body, muscles, or movement, this month could be phenomenal for you. You'll notice just how precise, efficient, and effective your body becomes, and how well it handles even the most intense physical challenges. So for those who are involved in physical activities, there's a whole world of opportunities here, and you'll have tons of energy for it as well. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 key events and storylines. And below the video, you'll also find a link where you can calculate and see which of these 5 key storylines is the most important for you based on your date of birth. This is a probability index service, and it's free. I also have paid tools available. You can find sponsorship options in my private Telegram channel. There, I actually provide a huge amount of additional information, including details based on your personal date of birth, an AI assistant, and several mini lessons every week to help you learn and understand better. There are charts there, and honestly, just about everything you can think of. And I also want to clarify one more thing. If you are abroad, you can now join the WhatsApp channel as well. WhatsApp channels are not available for Russian language phones. But if you're watching me from abroad, you can also join my WhatsApp channel. The link will also be down below in the description. Enough with the advertising. Let's move on to analyzing the actual events. And the first thing I'd like to talk about for this month is the beginning. From the 1st to the 5th of June, July, the theme of the jealous, spicy, emotionally provocative black moon is playing out very clearly. The black moon is currently in the sign of Scorpio, in the sign of raging passions, in the sign of intense emotional experiences. And it creates this vibe of let's play with provocative emotions. At the same time, the black moon in Scorpio means provocations of a sexual nature, and provocations involving those emotionally close people with whom some kind of drama is being played out. The strongest influence of the black moon awaits us in the fall, in October and November. There, it'll be like a whole Brazilian soap opera. But here, it plays out in small nuances. How might it play out here? Well, from the 1st to the 5th, there might be promises of some kind of emotional closeness. But only in words, literally just in some made-up phrases. Also, the black moon in a water sign can symbolize that. Among my close circle, there is, let's say, a wolf in sheep's clothing. That is, when we care for someone, support someone, and then it turns out that person was taking advantage of their emotional position. So here, situations are also possible where the emotionally close environment, the emotional circle of people. But I don't know whether to trust this emotional environment or not. I'm not even sure if I gave to the right person. This feeling of some kind of emotional uncertainty, instability, and emotional doubts will be very clearly present here. And the most important thing with the black moon is not to overthink things or start labeling people. Because on the one hand, I said you should be a little suspicious, but don't turn it into paranoia. Because with the black moon, you really never know what's white could be black, and what's black could be white. At some point, you might get completely confused about who to trust. And the thing about the black moon is that it's powerful because it triggers all sorts of hang-ups in us, and we just start snapping at someone close to us simply because something in our head clicked the wrong way. Our thoughts just didn't line up right, and that's it. An outburst is basically guaranteed, just like that. Alright, so those are the first events connected to the provocative, jealous notes of the black moon. The next event I'd like to mention is July 10th. Here, we have a full moon in the sign of Capricorn. And right around July 7th, Uranus moves into the sign Gemini. And essentially, that's when the digital era begins. That's when the energies associated with rapid learning and communicating with people who have a technological outlook on life start to emerge. In general, meeting people who are literally reaching for the stars of this technological world, bringing insights and blowing your mind with their revelations. That can already start happening in the very first days, on the 1st and the 4th. Here, the planet Uranus is especially prominent. Life is filled with unpredictable encounters, maybe even dates, surprises, and, among other things, Uranus symbolizes exactly this theme, to be amazed, to catch some kind of revelation. It also stands for unexpected events and surprises, including in your love life, and there will be plenty of those here. Revelations of a romantic nature will just rain down like hail from the sky. And in these unexpected, spontaneous love stories, a lot of things will be revealed. The main thing is that Uranus always brings a sense of freshness and uniqueness to a love story, and there will definitely be plenty of that here. There will be a huge number of interesting encounters, romances through the internet, unexpected twists, and surprising revelations about certain love stories and situations. So, you can be sure there will be no shortage of creativity in the love department. But the important thing about these dates around July 10th is that the full moon pushes us to really focus on work. Love stories are fine, let them be, but it's important to catch the essence of this trend, to really throw yourself into work, grounded in the earth element. Because right now your Mars is in an earth sign, and the full moon in Capricorn is coming into play. And there's an incredible rush and adrenaline in all of this. And it's the kind of drive where you're ready to fight tooth and nail to achieve some material, financial results. Because this strong influence of the earth element comes both from the full moon in Capricorn and Mars in Virgo. The earth element is all about rolling up your sleeves and being ready to take on the whole world to get what you want. And in this sense, there's a lot of constructive, powerful energy here. At the same time, an important feature of this full moon is that it happens under a strong influence from the node of the past. In other words, it could mean returning to an old job. It could also mean going back to an old environment where people work hard and are ready to put in a lot of effort. It's like reuniting an old team that may have fallen apart a long time ago, but now there's a new opportunity. Let's get the old gang back together, the old-timers, the musketeers meeting 30 years later to take on an interesting project again and give free rein to their ambitions and strong financial goals. So, on one hand, there are these unpredictable love affairs, fun, and a sense of adventure. The second point is a bunch of brilliant people and flashes of inspiration. And the third point is a real willingness to work hard, along with support from a community of people from the past or from old projects that used to be quite effective and successful, and now you can reconnect with them. And all these descriptions, they really explode around the first. Well, actually, you'll feel them throughout the whole month, but the full moon will clearly highlight all these stories. So go for it. This is the most interesting time for a brainstorm, for tackling new challenges and goals, using old friends, old methods, and your old team. So this is an extremely intense, daring time. And again, everything related to the body, sports, physical activity, and just excellent coordination, whether it's about working out, learning some kind of athletic skill, here, it all comes easily and with a lot of enjoyment. For those with this as their ascendant, I should clarify that the full moon practically falls right into the 10th house, and it can specifically highlight themes like business, success, and advancement. Mars is moving through the 6th house, so it's all about working hard, and working hard. And success here won't take long to show up. At the same time, Venus, the planet of partnership, is moving through the 2nd house and is earning through partnerships, with constant discussions about money going on. In short, life is buzzing. That's it. The third key event of this month is, notably, the middle of July, which occurs around the 15th. Let's say, roughly the 15th. This is a very important moment connected to the theme of your emotional environment and emotionally close people. Around the 15th, the node of the future is activated, which says, fill your life with new emotions. Surround yourself with people you want to relax and unwind with. Pay attention to family, emotional, and romantic patterns, where people care for each other, where they focus on their loved ones, where they work on building family bonds, spending time with children, and bringing new emotions into their lives. All of this could be the main focus and trend around July 14th and 15th. And this important point, to take a break, to relax with your loved ones, to recharge. In July, there's actually a strong drive to work really hard thanks to Mars in Virgo. But at the same time, there's also a powerful urge to enjoy yourself, to relax, and to let things go in the company of close friends and loved ones, thanks to Jupiter and the Sun in Cancer. And these are the two things that alternate with each other throughout the month. You work hard, then you rest well. And those dates, the 14th and 15th, are exactly about taking a good break, recharging your energy, emotions, and feelings, really disconnecting from work. Here, the moon is in opposition to your Mars, like, enough already with carrying your intellectual tasks and solving things. Switch off. Let us unplug you. That's it. Rest, relax, don't rush anywhere. Don't hurry, just be. Make your home, family, and loved ones your top priority. Those with whom rest and life itself are simply an enjoyable process. Find such pleasant people and enjoy yourself with them. That's basically the vibe for the 14th and 15th. Actually, these vibes alternate throughout the whole month. You work, then you rest, then you find that nice spot, a good group of friends, family, or loved ones. But specifically on the 14th and 15th, this will be an especially important recommendation and piece of advice. Now, here's one of the important and very eventful periods, from July 17th to July 22nd. This is another one of those mind-blowing, brain-activating times when your brain is practically boiling. So many ideas. At times, it feels like your brain is about to explode from the sheer amount of information and, again, the speed at which you're processing it. What's happening here? First of all, during these dates, your Mars fully reaches the node of the past in the second half of the month. And here comes the theme of, this is my crew. We've known each other for a long time, we've done a lot together, we've been through thick and thin. I'm practically wiping the drool from my mouth. I haven't actually eaten any dogs, but the point is, this important part, my crew, this strength, could be a men's group. By the way, it's very likely that Mars conjunct the South Node classically brings exactly this kind of male group, masculine energy, or the drive to work hard as a team, or an environment that gives you a place where people are gathered, where everyone is grinding hard, fully focused on their work and projects. At the same time, an important part of this is that Venus also plays a very strong role here. And within these dates, from July 17th to 22nd, there's this story where the object of your affection, the person you're interested in, someone attractive, pleasant, sociable, and talkative, keeps coming up, but there are always some complications with them. Together, you're solving this issue. Together, you're handling that task. Honestly, what comes to mind here are those movies about Shurik, where he and his girlfriend are studying together, working on their diplomas, or, cramming for lectures, just typical student stuff. But here it's summer again. Who even thinks about studying at a time like this? Who cares about exams and all that? Anyway, but the vibe is such that you really want to find someone you can tackle intellectual challenges with, have discussions, and deep conversations. You want to find an intellectual companion, someone with whom life feels vibrant, and together you can solve all sorts of problems, come up with tons of solutions, and basically expand your mind to new horizons. To learn, and to keep on learning. Here, there's actually a love story unfolding around these intellectual trends, which are the main theme for all of July. But right around these dates, some kind of romantic plot starts to develop within this whole story. Another aspect of this romantic storyline, and of Venus in Gemini, is that it forms a square to the nodes. This is a loved one who is caught between the node of the past and the node of the future, as if your loved one is moving or being transferred from one job to another, like, hey, why don't you work somewhere near us? Or let's bring you into our organization. In other words, there's some kind of upheaval happening around the object of your affection. It could be a story about a loved one getting stuck in an airport transit zone when they were planning to fly somewhere. Then the flights got rescheduled, the tickets changed, and in the end, they're flying in a completely different direction. So there's a kind of redirection of the focus around the main object of affection, and you might also notice a shift in the trend of these romantic situations here. Another important aspect of these dates is that Mercury, the planet responsible for our mind, for our thought processes, when the gears are turning, Mercury actually comes to a stop here in the 20s, roughly around the 20th to the 22nd. This is a special nuance for intellectual activity, because when Mercury stops, it's no longer fast, but instead starts to delve deeper into issues. In other words, it stops skimming over everything quickly and instead looks for a topic that you can really dive into all the way to the very bottom. And that's why intellectual activity around these numbers can have the quality of almost fanatical digging into the granite of science or some kind of information. There will be a tendency in learning to get to the very, 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 very depths. That's another important point to highlight. Now let's also discuss the last key event. This is the new moon that occurs in the sign of Leo, and it is very important, notably significant and influential, globally and powerfully directing the overall vector and trajectory of our lives at this particular time. On the one hand, I talked about this new moon in detail in the annual forecast because it awakens a great new power, especially in the fire signs and first and foremost you, Aries. And during this full moon, there is a particularly strong influence on your planets, Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries. You feel as if life itself is urging you to take bold, daring, and very audacious steps. At the same time, this new moon on July 24th actually repeats events that already took place on June 27th. So pay attention to what was on your mind on June 27th. Here on July 24th, it will start to come to fruition, burning with an inner fire. You need to seize the moment and act. Don't put things off. Just jump right into the fray. And here, you need to take a step back and look at the July situation from the outside. If I talked a lot about intellectual trends, learning this, learning that, figuring things out here, organizing things there, getting the accounting in order, starting collaborations, negotiating, doing, thinking things through. All of that was about the intellectual side. But here on July 24th and 25th, it's not about intellect. It's about spirit, willpower, and the strength to push forward, literally breaking your way through. Here, the element of fire comes into play, and it's not about thinking things over or learning something new. Whatever you could learn, you've already learned. Now is the time to act, sometimes quite aggressively, assertively, and boldly. It's precisely this powerful energy that kicks the door open, and that's why the dates of the 24th and 25th are so significant. That's why there might be some big, bold, daring new beginnings here that make you tremble with excitement. Did I really dare to do this? So pay attention to this new moon. It could play a huge role, and primarily not from an intellectual standpoint, not about understanding something, but about finally just deciding to go for it and take action. And this new moon marks the beginning of either this 3-year Saturn cycle or a 10-year Neptune cycle. In other words, it feels like I'm ready to dive into some big, long-term story. I have no idea how it will end, but right now I'm fired up and ready to take action. That's the key theme here. Again, for those with this on the ascendant, I'll clarify that this new moon is happening in your 5th house, which could reveal or push you to discover your creative talents. So it really sounds like Dear Aries rising. If you have Aries on the ascendant, Dear Aries, unlock within yourself some playful, creative, adventurous side. In other words, it will push you toward bold actions, infusing them with a spirit of adventure. Let's give it a try, let's play. And of course, the fifth house is also about children. Your fifth house could become very active in the next year or two. And also, since Jupiter will be passing through it for a while, the topic of children could become very prominent, along with some key decisions about motherhood, kids, and so on and so forth. That's the overall outlook for the upcoming July. I've talked about 5 key events. Below the video, you can find a link for a free birthday calculation. Which of these events in July are personally significant for your birth date? You'll also find a link below to sponsorship tools. There's a private Telegram channel where you'll find personal pages with charts. It shows exactly when each event happens, what it means, and how it unfolds. If right now I've talked about 5 general events, and in the free public access you'll find events that basically sound the same for everyone, just with different ratings. For some people, a general event might be rated 5 stars, while for others it's just 1 star. But in the sponsorship section, your personal events based on your birth date are described in much more detail and in a more visually appealing way. And of course, feel free to join. There's a WhatsApp group for, let's say, those who are living abroad. There's also a WhatsApp channel which is full of useful information, and from time to time there will probably be some bonuses shared there as well. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention. Have a great July. Bye-bye.